podcast focused on trends shaping the future of manufacturing. I'm Alexandria Burek, your host, here with A.W. Schultz, two thought leaders with a passion for people and manufacturing. Today and every episode, we are diving deep into the advancements, sustainable practices, and dynamic changes transforming how we produce everything.
And now welcome Alexandria Burek and A.W. Schultz.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Factory of the Future. I'm here with A.W. Schultz. I'm Alexandria Burek. Today's episode is inspired by a comprehensive study produced by Spark 360, a supply chain consulting firm. We're going to be talking about today all things sustainability, technology, and of course, organizational transformation. So I'm excited to get into it. AW, why don't you kick us off as usual?
Well, so this is a great article, and it came out. It came out this year, but it was data that was collected in 2024. So pretty new and relevant as we're talking this today. But what this study was a survey of supply chain managers in 293 managers were surveyed on this study, which to me that sounds pretty good. And I'm imagining or I'm theorizing that they're all US just based on the language that they're using. They didn't necessarily call out if it was others or not. But what's interesting about it is just the talk about sustainability, particularly that, most of the people, and I go back to just, it's a people thing. That's sustainability. Somebody asks you, would you take sustainability or not? And I think everyone's going to say, yeah, sure. I'd like a greener, better planet. Okay. Well, are you willing to spend for it? Well, I'm not sure about that. And what this study goes into is asking some of those questions. And for the most part, a lot of the individuals that were surveyed had positive results to what they want to do for make the organizations greener and the investments onto it. A particular interesting one that kind of stuck out to me is 60% of those individuals expect or are, well, 90% of them are interested in doing something green. 60% of them are expecting some kind of payback within 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, for me, that's outstanding because as you and I know, sustainability efforts, right now aren't necessarily that cheap or inexpensive, and you got to want to go after it if you wanted to achieve it. So I looked at that, and we had talked on previous episodes that when we look at an investment between 1 and 4 years, we kind of scratch our heads and saying, or a project, I'm calling it a project that's 1 and 4 years, that is that really achievable? Because, I grew up in the age where we talked about the 5-year plan. And if you've ever been in an interview and the HR asks you, what's your 5-year plan? Well, it's this and this and this. And in today's world, I don't think there's such thing as the 5-year plan. I think it's got to be reduced. So
1 year.
the short case says in this 60% was within 4 years. And some of them said they saw the resources or sustainability within greater than, I think it was 4 to 8 years. And then some of them just, I think maybe they're blatantly honest. So they just say, well, we're never going to get there. So maybe their thought is, why try?
Yeah. What I found interesting as well is number one, the patience of the organizations that were willing to wait the 4 years for the 60% ROI. But I also found it really interesting where the study found such a drastic gap, not only in kind of the planned resources and budgeting for sustainability, but also in the technology aspects of it, right? We talk all the time about implementing technology, making sure people are prepared, ready, and engaged with the technology implementation, bringing the end users into the beginning of the process and the planning. And I think we all know how technology is and will continue to play a role in, improving efficiencies, reducing emissions, and ultimately driving sustainability measures. One of the things that Spark does really well and that I'm excited to work with them on is the network optimization. So what maybe people are missing, and I know we want to talk about the tariffs, so hopefully this will nicely segue into that. But when we think from a logistics and a supply chain standpoint, we can really reduce emissions and that carbon footprint by reducing the distance that you have to transport and redundancies in transportation. So, any company who's looking to make a relatively easy, quick win with sustainability, the first place they should be looking at is their network optimization with their supply chain. How close are their end users to their distributing facilities? How close are their distributing facilities from the, places where those goods are coming from? And then where are the raw materials coming to create their end products? By tightening the distance between all those things, you can really reduce your supply chain, risk, but also your cost and emissions. So those are some things I think organizations should really be thinking about, and those are things that we love to help people with.
Yeah, going back to when you mentioned about the tariffs, and for me, with the new administration, sometimes I scratch my head and I really have a hard time understanding the benefits of it. But what this article kind of pointed out to me is that when you have those tariffs in there, or the idea is these suppliers, they still want to take supplies from one country and bring them here. We're an integrated planet at this stage. But while the U.S. might be laxing on some of their standards, other countries are not, which means these suppliers still need to adhere to that. Where the idea is, where maybe the benefit is from the administration is when you start putting these tariffs in there, it creates a more motivated action to buy local or buy within the U.S. And that could be beneficial because if the administration wants to have more laxed on it, you want the companies to be more supportive in the government's deregulations of some of the things that they're doing out there. And that kind
Right.
of opened mine up a little bit on
Yeah.
why.
And I think the other thing that we need to think about when we're talking about just kind of that whole idea is if we can get to a place where the consumers are demanding companies be sustainable. When I think of companies that are leading the forefront in this, I really come to mind, first company is Yeti. I had applied for a job in their procurement department in 2021, or I'd been approached about it. And the whole idea was that they would procure recycled or materials from like what would otherwise be ocean waste, ocean plastic. So we're pulling plastics out of the ocean, paying a premium for that, and using it in the products to, sell back to consumers. I think about myself. I recently was just at Costco. I passed by some dog toys. My dogs are notorious for destroying toys, and I usually don't buy anything but one brand because that one brand they do not destroy, but this other brand was made from recycled plastics. So I was like, oh, it's a good thing for the environment. I'll let my dogs have these four toys that I'll give sporadically. But it's gonna drive, it's making my purchase is making a greater contribution. I think by having the consumer demand be making those decisions versus probably the cheap toy from PetSmart that's $5 that is also equally going to get destroyed, that contributed negatively to the impact on the world, where the toys that I bought contributed positively. So I think when consumers are making those decisions, that's really going to drive the behavior of organizations as well. And I think that's even more important than kind of regulations because administrations change, but consumer demand kind of is king in most cases. So I know you had
One
a,
other point on
yeah,
sustainability, and then there was also, so the article's about trends and attitudes within supply chain. So it's
yeah,
also the technology part of it. But the other
yeah,
thing I wanted to bring up on the when we talk about sustainability in the is when they did the survey and only half the companies measure greenhouse emissions, despite 93% seeing sustainable as their go-to is what they want to do. So they're saying they want to be sustainable, but they're not really measuring it. So you can't really fix what you're measuring. Um, so the next topic on here is this technology, and a lot about what large companies are. They show that they're much more able to embrace it than smaller companies. That being because they've got the capabilities for advanced trainings and the resources to roll it out. So which it puts some of these smaller companies, and I want to say that they're smaller companies. They were defining at less than 60 million or something like that in revenue per year, and they were really sitting around between that, from the survey, between 500 to up to a billion, I think. I know I'm off a little bit on it, but I'm pretty close to what their thoughts were on that. But certainly the idea of incorporating AI and robotics, well, the smaller companies are lagging behind. They're struggling with that.
Yeah. It's also the attitude, I think, of the smaller company. You think of a small business and the family atmosphere that exists there. I know personally, I've worked at small businesses myself. I've got a lot of small business owners. Um, there's something about the attitude that's just a little bit apprehensive to move forward with something like AI because they feel like they're eliminating jobs. A lot of people who are small business owners, as much as they're in it for the money like everybody else, they're also in it to create a positive impact on their communities and create jobs, and I think that's really important. I think if we could change the attitude and the perspective and the frame at which people are approaching technology as, oh, it's taking away jobs, it's never really happened. Honestly, if anything, you could look at other decisions that were made that actually did result in, job losses. It's never really been technology. The jobs just change from one type to another. People need to maintain the robots. The someone still needs to turn on the factory lights. I guess not really. You could have that automated, but
Yeah.
oops, my bad. But
Well, I
anyway,
always, when people ask me about that, I say, the jobs aren't going away, they're changing.
yeah,
We've talked many episodes that there's still a big gap in
sure.
manufacturing job positions, and if things are going to be changing in the U.S., there's only going to be a bigger gap unless
Yeah.
something else is going to change. Um,
The only solve is AI and robotics. It's not going away, it's here. So, and to be honest, I was even thinking about this. One of the jobs I recently did in my new role was using AI to do research. And my friend and I were talking about it. There's going to be new jobs created as an AI prompt engineer. So if you can use AI correctly, if you can get AI to do what you need it to do, you're now going to be valuable. So to anybody out there who's in maybe middle management, I strongly suggest using AI for fun. But also, like today, I was even thinking I have a bunch of stuff to do on my to-do list. I was like, oh, you know what I haven't tried is putting it into AI and seeing what the most efficient way to get all these jobs done would be. So I'm gonna probably experiment with that. I don't know. We haven't really done an AI update, so I'll kind of digress here and go off track a little bit. But for the audience, they know that I love ChatGPT. ChatGPT and I broke up. I'm now seeing Grok. We are all in with Grok. We are a married couple now. We are fully committed to each other. Um,
I
as
did try that out one day, and that it was pretty good because I asked a very general question, and it was like, "How did you know that specifics?" That's what I was really looking for.
Yeah. I would say Grok is 10x to ChatGPT. If you're gonna start experimenting, don't waste your time on ChatGPT. Go straight to Grok. My mom sent me
I'm
something
still a
about
Clyde guy.
still a Claude guy.
Yeah,
I think it's Claude. I think it's Claude.
Claude. Yes,
Yeah,
Claude. Yeah, I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
say his name right.
yeah. But I have downloaded Claude. I haven't started using that yet. They do gear it more towards and ask your AI bot what it's best used for. It'll tell you. More to come on the AI relationship and developments there, but I don't want to take us too off topic here. AW, what else did you have to talk about, or is it time to clock out?
Well, it was a good article, and I think Alexander is the one that came around this and shared it with me. She knew I'd be all into it, and it was. It looks a very comprehensive study, very very good information. I always like to see kind of the questions were asked because sometimes they can be kind of one-sided and it can be kind of prejudged or
Mhm.
in that manner. But again, thank you for bringing us forward, and I think we're checking out here like finished goods.
We're out of here.
This is Factory the Future, and we are out of here like finished goods. Stay tuned for our next episode of Factory of the Future, where we're exploring groundbreaking techniques and behaviors that are reshaping industrial landscapes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and help others discover the cutting-edge insights transforming manufacturing as we know it.